Da da da. What's my good chair? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out. And in the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And I'm saying that tonight like I am, only because I am delving deep. What's being brought across my path today is so unlike the content that I usually take in. And I don't know if I'm supposed to be pacing myself, but I'm somebody who follows curiosity. I do work with what comes across my path. It has served me so well in the past. Oh my goodness. I couldn't even say, I would have to say at least 10 years. Some of it I'm in, I know what's going on, but I believe a lot of it starts without me really truly understanding what's going on. I have to say, I'm very, very grateful for this digital age. Lots of people are looking at what's going on, how immersed we are, how dependent we're becoming on this digital age. But you know what? In this age of AI learning, it's going to change into something else. I have a hard time labeling it something because it was the digital age only a couple of years ago. Now it's the age of AI learning. What is it going to be in the next stage? And what is the time of span in that? Hello, Tammy. Hello, Tammy. I'm having the most amazing little day today. I have to say, right, if I'm going to delve in deep, if I'm going to be impacted, because it does impact me, because I'm familiar. Some of it is concerning. A lot of it puts me into that space where I really have to work through some of my own ideas, some of my own beliefs and perspectives. I'm pretty steadfast, but I do understand in that being willing to be expanded, to be willing to be course corrected, to recognize something truer than what I've been stepping into. And for the most part of my life, I have been stepping into doo doo up to here. And that's the truth. And not even recognizing that. Maybe others around me recognizing some of what's been going on with me, maybe even being a willing participant in a lot of those trip ups, those wrenches that get thrown into my life. But I would have to say again, it is in my choices. It is always been in my choices. I would have to say, when we're very, very young, we're in the hands of our caregivers, in our parents. And, you know, 80% of that learning that we do as children, I'm not going to say exactly 80%. I'm not a scientist or a numerologist or, right? I don't delve into those topics too much, but little things, that tidbits that come across my path, I understand, when we're little kids, how we absorb everything and we are impacted by everything in our lives, good and bad. I had the opportunity to bump into my niece yesterday. I was out shopping a little bit. I talked a little bit about yesterday bumping into one of my sisters and her daughter and her granddaughter. And I'm not sure. Right? We are connected through different platforms on social media. We do talk and connect. This baby is really not very old at all. I would say maybe 6 months at the most. But this baby smiles. Oh my goodness. I bumped into her and I don't think this this baby has ever seen me, right? I see my niece on social media. We connect a little bit here and there, but my great niece and I have never met. And she was sitting in her little chair, her car chair, right? That is portable, and she just dropped it in a shopping cart. And I bumped into them, and I just looked at this baby, and this baby smiled like, oh my goodness, my heart wanted to burst. This baby was so beautiful. This baby had my dad's eyes. My dad had gray blue eyes. My eyes are a little bit darker than his. Two of his daughters had blue eyes. But she had the most beautiful eyes, but more importantly, that smile, like not a care in the world. Like she is situated and dropped into the most beautiful, loving, caring, doting family that I could hope for, right? That mitochondria that's passing down in my bloodline. It makes me super happy, super grateful. And like I said, this baby was so adorable, but the nature, I just could tell by the nature of this baby that this baby had something special, right? That wasn't going to get knocked out of them, right? In those few years that we spend with our parents, I've talked a little bit about my own upbringing and coming, right? It's in that etiquette that I call it dynamic families. But I had a very traumatic childhood myself, a lot of it by my own choices. But those choices were directed and manipulated and coerced, and I was very frazzled in it, and not in any capacity was I capable of making decisions, right? As children, small children, we follow so we don't get to make any decisions at all, right? But in those experiences that we have that we get impacted by, it sets us up for the future, right? So when I come in here and I do my lives and stuff, like I'm trying to help people to get to terms to the way their life unfolded for themselves, to help them understand a lot of it. They didn't have much choice because so much of that learning capacity that we have as little ones, that's the time, right? And if you come from a dynamic family, you know there could be addictions, there could be emotional or mental issues, there could be crime, there could be neglect, there could be abuse, right? And these things impact us, and then we grow up, and as teenagers we could see that we have issues, right? We can clearly see we have issues, but a lot of this information out there is not really out there. They don't teach these things in schools. And a lot of times in these dynamic households, we are brought up not to discuss these problems that we grow up with, right? So we keep these things stuffed down and we choke on it. It makes us miserable, can bring about long term depression, sadness, sometimes jealousy and resentment. And we end up with issues. So, a lot of what I've been doing is working with and in emotions, but directly focused in the dynamics of families, right? Because the way the world moves, it moves so differently depending where you're living, what country you're living in. The again, epigenetically, these things are passed down from one generation to another. And sometimes we think it's normal because this was dad's life, this was grandpa's life, and right, if you were lucky or unlucky enough to know your great granddad, like it's just passed down, passed down, passed down. And I'm very grateful. I In my family, I had two parents, my mother and father. They were married, they stayed together right to the very end. Unfortunately, my father only lived to be 47 years old, but he wasn't expected to live into his 20s, right? He wasn't expected to even live into his 20s. And he got to expand in his life by more than 25 years, which I would think would be pretty incredible. And I would say, again, it's in our choices as adult, no matter what upbringing we have, right? We have to make those decisions to do that course correction. And sometimes people say you can't teach old dog new tricks. Well, I'd like to think that I'm the example, that I'm the evidence for others that it can be done. Because in this process, this is exactly what I've been doing for myself, right? Instead of putting that mansion over my head, like those big bucks I'm saying, over my head, that I have been doing this for myself. So specifically, I can be the example, that I can build trust along the way. And, Tammy actually yesterday or the day before, she was talking a little bit about how she would like to put the good word out there a little bit for me to spread it and push it. And I think that's beautiful. I just love it, and I appreciate that she says that. But the priority for me was me. It had to be me. You guys hear me talk all the time, like we have to fill our own cups. We can't be giving from an empty cup, right? Like a milkshake, and that's a straw, and we're making those slurping noises in the bottom of a cup, and there's nothing there for us because we give it all away. And if I had done that, and I might have, I could have gotten into networks and communities that I felt quite welcomed in, that I actually figured that that's where I was probably going to end up, that things don't always work out the way that you think they will, right? But sometimes they work out even better because in that process, you know, kind of found myself, right? I kind of made a little bit of movement, a little bit, a lot of movement for myself. But I did it for myself, not concerning myself about being top 1%, bringing in the big bucks, loading up the clients, having my content shoot out there to the world when it wasn't ready, when I wasn't ready, right? Today was a little bit of a prime example of that. Like I'm stepping my toes into topics and I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness, like I didn't really sign up for that." But then again, my curious mind, the fact that I am enjoying what I'm doing, the fact that it is serving me very well. And even though, right, Tammy wants to put that good word out there, right? Yes, I'd love it to serve others, but it's got to be ready. It's got to be servable. It's got to be beneficial for all parties, right? I don't want to be that empty glass that's trying to serve out there. I don't, right? I want that broth overflowing and then just serve out all that and have fun with it, right? Because this is my life, right? And I think that I have every right to create the best life for myself as I possibly can. And I think a big part of that is the joy of being discovered, like the joy of Tammy one day popping across my content, and she's been with me every day since, right? And it warms my heart, and it adds that confirmation to myself that I am on the right track. Like, right? We are moving forward. And yes, we do have to leave people behind, right? Because that marketing really isn't there. That marketing has to be in the evidence, it has to be in the example that I can be for other people, that it can be done. You have to see and introduce yourself to my content, my way of thinking, my way of living, and see if it's something that you might be interested in applying to your own life, right? I got no credentials. I'm not going to university, right? My experience is my experience. And sometimes some of those best lessons that we get is how we live vicariously, how we learn from other people's experiences, how we can be the spectator and the students in each other's experiences. And it's super important, especially, as we move into, at this point, this generation of AI learning, and what it's going to be called in 5 or 10 years, I have no idea, right? But there are going to be rules, there are going to be laws, and there's going to be accountability for the people out there who are teaching, right? And it's going to have to be either a degree or by example, because if it's not, there's going to be big doo-doo to account for, because these big corporations, right? And you guys know I'm a Google girl and I want to represent well, right? I want to be a credit not just to myself, but I want to be a credit to the establishment that has given me this beautiful grace to have this platform that helps me to make that kind of movement. And it's important for me to uphold my end and to keep myself informed so that we don't step into those doo-doos, right? So it is going to be by discovery, right? It's the only way that I believe that it can work, is if I can be discovered by others and be able to be relatable through my own experiences, right? Whether it's an experience in a lecture I sat in and the information from an expert, right? But then again, I have to cross my T's and dot my I's that I don't uh, miss. What's the word I'm thinking? That I misrepresent what somebody else is teaching out there, right? It's like I said, when you put that help out there, when you sharing your experiences, or you're divvying out lessons, right? And it helps somebody, you get points for that, right? One for you. Even if it didn't, it's not your information. It's just something that you came across or an experience that you had that was taught to you by somebody else, right? That they get a piece of that, and they'll probably never know what they contributed, right? So I don't take that whole piece of the pie. I get a slice of it, and then other people get slices of that, right? But at the same time, if I misrepresent, if I don't cross my T's and dot my I's and I make mistakes in that, then I have to be accountable to that, right? I do have to be accountable to that because I have to be accountable to these organizations that, you know, have helped to lead me along. And I believe that, right? I believe that. And, I remember when I first started on YouTube, I wanted to be Logan Paul. I wanted to be Mr. Beast. I just wanted to blow up, right? Like I'd come home and look at my analytics and I would have had like 20,000 views in a day and it would blow my mind, right? But in pivoting and adapting and conquering and doing what you can when your life falls apart to keep your channel going, I had to change in that. I had to adapt in that to the point where I wasn't getting those 20,000 views in a day, right? But I didn't mind that because if I had turned into Mr. Beast or Logan Paul before I had done that pivot, I would have misstepped and I wouldn't have made it this far, right? Because I would have really, really, truly overstepped because I was absolutely clueless to how big and how diverse this world really is. That each one of us is just getting a little dust molecule of what this world is all about, and that's 100% the truth. So I'm very grateful for where I'm at right now, and I'm grateful that you're here with me, Tammy. I really do appreciate you. If I haven't said that, to make sure that you understand, right? I'm so grateful that you've come in and discovered my channel and you've hung out with me and kind of kept me company in that process of learning to put the pieces back together in that creation of the best life that I can possibly create for myself, and in that be the evidence, right? To be the example for others that they can go off and do it for themselves, right? Do it for themselves. And that's each one of us has got to do. We got to do it for ourselves because we all have curious lives, don't we? We all have curious issues. We all have handicaps emotionally, mentally, physically, but we're all at different capacities of how much we can take in, how big of a yank, how many pivots we can do in our lives, right? And it's lots of fun, right? You hang out with me. We do it in baby steps, right? We digest, we do lots of smiling in it. But again, it's in that idea of not misrepresenting because the world is always changing and we're going to get constricted in the rules and in the knowledge that we have, right? If we don't have degrees and we put that out there and we're representing ourselves as teachers, as people who are experts in different fields, then that's not going to work, right? That is not going to be enough to keep me here until I'm 114 years old. That's my goal for age. I don't believe that I'll be on YouTube to be 114 years old, but that would be pretty amazing. But I would like to see me at 80, 85 years old and still coming in and having these conversations and still being able to get out there and do my provincial parks and my trails and contribute to Google Maps as a Google guide, to be able to be knowledgeable in what I'm doing, to be able to keep up. That's right. It's going to be a concern because I'm not technically inclined. But if I'm here, right, that these things that come across my path and my curiosity picks it up, that technology and those buttons that I've got to push on the computer and those apps that I got to pick up and those camera gears, and that I somehow miraculously, and which is, I'm going to say, up till now I've been managing just fine, right? It could be better. It could always be better. But in this moment, I think I've been doing just fine as a baby boomer in even having some of these ideas about being accountable, right? Being responsible and wanting to be discovered. Because, like I said, if I had gotten discovered 12 years ago when I first started, was it been 12 years? 2014, yeah, 12 going on 13 years, you guys. I've been here on YouTube. It's been a very long time, but if I had taken off when I wanted to, when I thought I was going to, right? I was optimistic. Let's just put it that way. I was optimistic. But again, it's a learning process, isn't it? But if I had, for some reason, taken off, it happens. I see people put up one video on Instagram, the next thing they go viral, and with the silliest things too. But it happens, don't I? But do they adapt and conquer? Are they able to pivot? Do they have the capacity to keep going, or is it a one viral video, what do you call that, wonder, one, right, one hit wonder, right? And I don't want to be that, right? I love what I'm doing. I love being a YouTube creator. I love my routine in my life, that I have that opportunity to come in here and hang out with you guys. And yes, I'm coming into the comments here in a moment there, Tammy. And I just wanted to make that, I just wanted to make that clear, right? I feel the change. I really do feel the change, especially today. And the reason is I had the most beautiful rainy day. It's the first one this year. It rained when I woke up this morning. It was raining, and it has been raining all day. Dark, dreary day. I got the air conditioning off. I've had my window open. It's been absolutely magnificent, right? Nice munchies, coffees, my juice, getting my fluids in, taking in content, taking my time, and just seeing what takes my interest. If it's a time of change, right? Then I would like to, in my choices, to be able to make some good choices as to what I feel I need to be delving into. Because when I delve into these topics, they're going to have to come here, aren't they? Eventually, right? Okay, you guys, let me come into the comments here. I am so happy for you, Cindy. I feel like your father smiling at you too through your great grandniece there. Oh, yeah. Oh, what a beautiful baby. What a beautiful baby. And I'm not being like exaggerating because she's blood, but oh my goodness, the smiles on that baby. Oh my goodness, such a happy baby, right? I wasn't that baby. I can guarantee you that I wasn't that happy baby. Um, in in my upbringing, I do come from dynamic families that's been passed down from generation to generation. And in those experiences that I was too young to be aware of, to understand what was going on, I was a cause of distress. I was a nuisance. I was a problem for some, and I was a godsend, the only thing keeping others going at the same time. And I recognize that. And I come from two extremes in my family, but in those experiences that happen, right, I can put myself in the shoes of my parents and in my grandmother and in my aunt's life, and unfortunately not my uncle's life because he passed away. um, I didn't know him before my first birthday. He was gone. My grandfather was a chronic alcoholic, right, and a really bad one, like one of those ones that live in bus shacks and stuff. There were times he was always trying to quit. He'd go 6 months or a year without drinking, until finally he would fall off the wagon. I guess that's what they call it, fall off the wagon, and he would start drinking again. And he was just the meanest, nastiest. Wow, just something really, really scary to be around when he was drinking. But I don't remember those times. I was just too young. But the residue of those experiences were left in my system for me to deal with as a teenager, as a young adult, and as a mature adult. That it would have been in my choices to, right, figure out what was going on, to be able to understand that, my problems came from my childhood and I had no recollection, right? I just thought, oh my goodness, that's in the past. I got through that. No worse for wear. And not even look back and recognize what what had actually happened. And a lot of what I'm doing right now is to actually understand what happened and be able to make some choices for myself that will put myself in a better state, that I could truly enjoy my life. And I have to say I'm very, very grateful that I had some amazing, amazing people on Team Cindy throughout my life. I had my sisters, and they were dynamic too, ups and downs, right? But I have to recognize that just as much as I had a dynamic upbringing, they had, right? They had some direction in their upbringing too. So I have to appreciate that, and also appreciate the friends that have come into my life, the few friends that I've been able to bring on to my team, to have those choices to actually join forces with Google and YouTube, and, right, have this be a healthy coping mechanism for me, because it was a very healthy coping mechanism. And as I was saying, right, before I got into that spiel, was how grateful I am, right, to this age of AI learning that has brought me along and helped me out so much, right, to better understand what went wrong, give me some solutions as to how to make things a little bit better, to introduce me to, right, teachers and psychologists and therapists and counselors and YouTube creators and thought leadership out there, that has kind of brought me into the fold. It really made me feel like I was a community project. And so again, I want to represent. I'm not going to force it. If I don't have that capacity, I don't have that capacity. But so far, so good. And if it works, right, then that looks good on them. They get points, right? They get points. And if they could help me in where I'm at and where I'm heading and where I've been, right? Then maybe somebody else would give them a shot, right? To trust in something that is AI generated, that is designed for you personally. And it's about being honest in that, in Googling your problems, Googling family issues, Googling those questions that you've always had, and then just wait to see what comes across your path, right? Just wait and then just follow suit. Take it serious. Take it serious. Take it slowly, right? I delved in deep, but if I felt that I needed to go slow, I went slow. And if I felt I needed to cope with a pink ice donut with sprinkles, I did that, right? I did that. And in that, to be able to create around what I wanted in the end, to be my job, my work, to have my interests in history, metal detecting, bottle digging, to be able to immerse myself in documentaries and interests that are just available to me at my fingertips. I just love it, right? And then my hobbies with Mother Nature. And a lot of that has gotten even more deeper, more connected, because I really have an understanding now of what that's all about, how necessary it is for us to connect with the real world, not just with AI, right? Not just to be in front of a computer all day long, that I'm able to immerse myself in the real world, right? And that's important. And that's important going forward. We can't go more immersed in it. We can't just have this, like that movie Wall-E, when everybody's hooked up in their chairs to the computers and the spaceship, and everything is served to them where they don't even have to move, and they're all like 500 pounds. If you haven't seen that movie Wall-E, it's just absolutely amazing, especially if you like animated movies. Animated movies are my absolute favorite. If you can't see, I've got my collection of Ice Age CDs behind me, my favorite animated movies of all time, right? And yeah, well, it's tied into our history, isn't it? It's tied into evolution, and it's absolutely amazing. Just another miracle that caught my curiosity, came across my path, and I chewed on that like I was a pit bull with a piece of raw meat on my mouth. It wasn't just an entertaining movie, which it was, right? But it impacted me in a way that it helped to create the person that I am. And in saying that, I have to say, whoever created the movies, Ice Age movies, right? They get some brownie points for what they contributed to my life. That's how it works, right? Right? It's like Tammy gets some points for hanging out with me, right? And being that person who's going to connect with whoever comes into the topics, because I can't keep up with the comments. Okay, let me come in here and see what's going on. You can teach an old dog new tricks, 100%. And it's harder sometimes. We get stubborn, right? We're set in our ways, but it's in that idea of being willing to expand, right? To be willing to be course corrected, right? And lots of times, first person who yells at you, just like, see you on the beach. You're out of here. Never want to talk to you again. Get out. And we block that out. But the idea is just in politeness sometimes, just being a spectator and a student in somebody else's expression. At the very least, we're going to be able to understand that person a little bit better, right? By giving them that space and that time. We don't have to believe I'm online all day long. Stuff comes across my path constantly, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't think so, right? And sometimes I give them a few minutes. Sometimes I'll watch the whole lecture, or I'll sit in on the whole video, right? Just to make sure that I'm not being stubborn and rigid in the way that I think and the way that I feel, that everybody and everything that, I only have so much time in my day. Like, I can't be on everything and in everything, but I can give time when I have that time. And I wouldn't have gotten to the point where I am right now if I hadn't. And that's the truth, right? It's just about being curious, right? Just being curious about, I wonder if it would work for me, right? You just say, I wonder if it would work for me. And just Google something, and then go into YouTube and see what's YouTube suggesting to you. What's your feed suggesting to you? And just following that, right? Mix it up with stuff that you like, because you got to remember you're human, right? Mix it all together, but just keep stepping your toes until you get the hang of things, right? You get the hang of things and you can settle into a new routine. But once you're comfortable in that, well, that's the idea, right? You're too comfortable. It's time for something new, and you add something else, a little bit more of a challenge into your life, a little bit different perspective, because you got a little bit of space now, right? You're kind of comfortable in where you are. You can take on a little bit more. You are serving others here, Cindy, on your channel, and I see it as reaching out, like I said, that one day was sending you that great cheer. Oh, great job, Cindy. Thank you. I appreciate that you say that. You're a great example and a great model for Google. I would like to think so, but I do put my foot in my mouth on occasion, but I just trust that content just won't get promoted that way if my message isn't bang on, if I've overstepped myself, that they are properly protecting themselves. And that's what AI, that's what the bots are there for, right? To actually sift through all the content. That's how people get cut off in their monetization and stuff all the time, is because they get caught doing things that they're not supposed to do. And my channel has actually been monetized since 2014. I'm kind of proud of that, actually. I even framed it when they said they were still sending out mail. I guess now they just do send you emails and stuff, but I actually framed my note. They mailed me a little congratulations when I got monetized, and I framed it in my picture frame, and I got it sitting here on in my shelf. It's something I'm kind of proud of myself, that I've never lost my monetization ever. I've had to delete some videos. Again, sometimes you put your foot in your mouth, sometimes you go a little bit more further than you really should have. But I just delete those videos. Those videos can come right off, and I don't give it another thought. I mean, I'm here 6 days a week, right? And if it's not going to be promoted, then it doesn't need to be on the channel. So I have no problem deleting anything that isn't appropriate 100%. Okay. Oh, Kathy's here too. Oh, hi, Kathy. It rained all day here, so that forced me to slow down. I love the heavy rain, though. Oh, it was so beautiful. Is it raining still? Yeah, it's kind of just dripping right now. Tomorrow's supposed to be another rainy day, so I'm kind of looking forward to another rainy day. I got my outdoor walk in yesterday, my connection to Mother Nature, so I don't mind. I didn't really do any chores today except sweep and wash my floor. Other than that, yeah, I didn't do anything I don't think today. I just kind of relax, but that's good. I'm good with that. I can't be a mover all the time, right? You walk in the rain. I have an umbrella, but the thing is I really like sitting indoors on a rainy day. When I lived in Vancouver, my dad always had us in houses. And, when you go to bed at night, you hear the rain pound on the roof. Oh, it was so amazing. You have the best sleepies ever. But yeah, I just thought maybe I would just have a nice, relaxing day. Tomorrow, too, I might take a walk to the grocery store tomorrow, but other than that, unless my sister calls me and says, "Do you want to go thrifting?" I'm probably gonna stay in tomorrow. But if I stay in tomorrow will be a chore day. It'll be like getting the laundry done. I had a couple. Oh, I got to do my budget for next month too, right? The end of the month, I got to make sure that everything is getting paid and kind of make sure that everything is spread out properly so I don't fall behind. Yeah, so I got to do that tomorrow too. So tomorrow might be another day to stay in. Um yeah, I love the rain, you guys. I really love the rain. Um for myself, I prefer like the super cold. So I go for lots of walks in the wintertime. I'll throw on my snow pants and my winter gear and I'll go for walks in the wintertime. I really love walking when the snow was falling and the light posts are shining on the snow. It's a quiet, peaceful kind of feeling. Summertime, it's busy outside. Like I live in an area where there's a lot of nightlife, so things are always going on. Today with the rain and stuff, like the streets were kind of bare, right? Just seemed like a little bit of a ghost town, and I appreciated it. um well, I'm glad that Kathy, that your legs are holding out, because it was your hip, right, that you had some work done on. I'm glad that you're walking all the time, and with the views that you have, Kathy, where you live. Oh my goodness, I would be out all the time too. I bet you get some really wicked winds where you are, being off the ocean or in a bay. Like, I bet you there's some really wonderful winds going on. Both of them. Oh my goodness. I thought it was just one. Had them both done. And you feel good and you're still going for your walks and everything. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you had that done, if it did you some good. Yeah, the high winds. I like the winds too. Okay, you guys. It's Thursday. I'm just going to go back to my relaxing evening, and what I was doing. I was doing some research on some new topics this week that I found very, very interesting. And I thought, oh, this might be pertinent to my life, right? And so I'm making a little list of questions, because I got a new family doctor. So I want to make sure that I delve into some of these topics to just see where I stand in that, right? if I'm going to have a family doctor, I'm going to utilize her, right? I live in Canada. It doesn't cost us any money to go see a doctor. I don't know. Each province is a little bit different. I do know when I was living in Edmonton, my when my husband got transferred to Edmonton, he was in the military. That when we moved there, I was paying, I think it was $70 for every 2 months for for my health insurance. He got free health insurance through the military. He didn't have to pay for his health insurance, but my health insurance costs $70. And, but so I do know that it's different in every province. But here in Manitoba, there is no cost to um, go see a doctor in any way. I actually even had plastic surgery in my early 30s, right? I and the government paid for that too, because here in Manitoba, your mental well-being is just as important as your physical well-being. Another reason why I love this province that I love it. I live in. Yeah, amazing. And they took the taxes. So when you go to the grocery store now, you don't pay any taxes on the groceries. They're doing it to help us with the inflation, right? So low incomes and people who struggle in putting milk on their kids' cereal, they get a little bit of a break when they go grocery shopping, that you no longer have to pay taxes when you go to the grocery store. So I think that's pretty cool. They come out with some really good programs for people to help people out. And we're weathering what's going on, with inflation and stuff right now, with the recession, that I think we're going to manage okay. Even in the tech sector, in the age of AI learning, like in Canada, we are up there with the talent that we have, that the impact that they have in the digital age, the age of AI learning, that we are got pretty good reputation, not just in Canada but in the entire world, right? So making a name for ourselves. This province is doing pretty darn good. Yeah. And we support each other. So if things got kind of messed up, we'd all jump in and help each other out. Okay, you guys, let's. Oh, you can't run or ride the bike with the fibromyalgia. I feel bad. I'm sorry to hear that, Tammy. I hope you don't struggle too badly in that. I hope you have a nice porch that you can sit out on in the evening, right? Or you have a nice backyard that you could have a little chair and sit there and enjoy the trees and the breeze and the squirrels and stuff. That would be nice, right? And I know you're still working too, so I hope that's not too much of a struggle for you while you're still working, and you're helping your brother out too, right? You're a caregiver for your brother. Yeah, you're a busy girl, Tammy, and then you come in here and you hang out with us. You're just a sweetheart. Okay, here you guys go. Let's grab a card. 54 powerful words. Might be pertinent to the conversation, might not. Acceptance is understanding we don't have all the answers. It's relevant a little bit to the conversation that we were having tonight about being accountable and being responsible for what we put out to the world. And it's not just if you work in social media, it's within your own family, right? Your friends and stuff. And lots of times we want to think that we have all the answers. I take in a lot of information, but I have to keep tabs on myself that I don't become a know-it-all, right? I would be feel really bad if anybody thought like I was narcissistic or anything like that, right? It's understanding that we don't have all the answers, and just making sure that we vocal that every once in a while, not to pretend that we are the be alls to end alls, that we don't get ourselves in that position where we have to have control over everybody else. Lots of times it's enough just taking care of ourselves, isn't it? And making those big decisions for ourselves that keep us in a state where we can enjoy our lives, that we can create the best lives for ourselves as we possibly can, and not feel bad that we can't help others out. Sometimes all we can do is be that example for other people, to be the evidence for other people that they can do it too, right? And being those highly sensitive, being empathic, quite often what we do is we do take on those burdens and they don't even ask us to. We just take them. Oh, I got that. Let me get that for you. Here, I got that too. And then we leave nothing for ourselves and we get ourselves into a point where we're so hyper vigilant on other people's needs that we don't take care of our own needs, and that's when we're going to get ourselves in a lot of trouble. And I very easily could have gotten myself in that situation. By that time my life started falling apart. I was very close to being in that position, and again, I'm so grateful for that little bit of grace, that little bit of curiosity, and that willingness to sit down and recognize that I've got no control over anybody or anything, right? Except for myself. And I've got to be really careful with myself too, because, sometimes we don't treat ourselves so well. Sometimes we overextend ourselves. Sometimes we beat ourselves up, feel guilty, feel that shame for things that we shouldn't even have on our plate or in our lives. And yet we find ourselves in those situations. And so what do? We go, 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 right? And I did that, in my job. So we were talking about that this week, that my only claim to fame in my entire working career is that I never, ever missed a day of work. But I didn't miss a day of work because I was super healthy, never got sick, that I was responsible. I was just afraid of the the guff. I was afraid that somebody would get angry and yell at me, or somebody would make me feel guilty when I made that phone call at work and went, I don't think I can come into work today. Right? And then just to put up with somebody making me feel bad, making me feel guilty about coming in, and knowing that I had a hard time saying no, that I was just going to say yes and break down anyway, right? That lots of times I would be sick. Lots of times I didn't feel like coming to work, but I came to work. And again, like I said, it was only because I didn't want to go through the hassle. I didn't want to go through the guilt and shame. But that was my claim to fame. And there were lots of times when I should have taken care of myself. I worked full time right through COVID. Everybody I worked with was letting the government pay their wage every payday, right? All through COVID. And there was Cindy. Right? Being the manager, we worked the entire time that the whole city was locked down. Of course, she was a good friend of mine. I loved her to death, right? But I would have helped her no matter what, because that's what friends do for each other, right? Sometimes in that little drummer girl boy idea that we don't think we have something to offer, we offer up our time, we offer up our patience, our kindness, that little bit of extra strength that we have that somebody doesn't have. But we have to remember, like what I was talking about tonight, right? To make sure that you're not giving from an empty cup, right? That you're taking care of yourself. You're making yourself that priority, right? And understand you don't have any control over anybody else's actions, anybody else's thoughts, anybody else's emotions. Are they going to be angry with you? They're going to be angry with you. There's nothing you can do about it, because you have to be that priority. You do have to be that priority, right? And sometimes we need those lessons because being hyper vigilant, right? We want to control our surroundings because that's how we feel safe, right? That's our safety. The more control we have over our environment, the safer we feel. And that doesn't serve the people around us who want to have a little bit of say in their own lives, right? But because if somebody else is doing something that goes against your grain, that's going to put you in a panic mode. That's going to trigger you, right? Right? And we just have to accept. Acceptance is understanding. We don't have all the answers. We don't have all the answers. Maybe in this age of AI learning, that's going to take a little bit of that worry and that stress off of us because, right? There's there's that Google, there's Chat GPT, and they got the answers, right? But that's going to make us a little bit more dependent on this age that we live in. But is that a good thing or a bad thing? To each one of us, right? We're going to have to make that choice for ourselves. For myself, it was a godsend, right? It was absolute miracle that I popped in and decided to be a YouTube creator when I did, and that I adapted and I conquered and I pivoted in order to keep my channel going. Because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have woken up to any of these ideas, right? But I have to understand, right? Acceptance is understanding. We don't have all the answers. We don't. So we just got to be happy at where we're at in the moment, understanding we can only control ourselves. We can't control our environment, even though we try, right? We have to understand we really can't. And we can ruin relationships in that. Really, we could stick our nose in where it doesn't belong and make people upset with us and lose our friends. I've done that many, many times, right? And yeah, just do what's best for yourself. Just understand, right? If you've got a question, Google's there for you. Just Google it and just see where it takes you. I bet you go into your YouTube channel after Googling a question, there is going to be a video for you all on that topic. And it's only going to be in your choices whether or not to sit your butt down and watch the whole thing, right? If you watch it at all. Again, that's your choices. Okay, you guys. That's my good cheer. Thank you, everybody, for popping in. Oh, my goodness. We had Kathy a few times this week. That's absolutely amazing. You guys, you have a great night. I sure don't claim to have all the answers, and I don't know it all, and I don't claim it either. I've always accepted that. Yeah. Some people can accept that. Again, it's that idea that we have to be able to control our environments, and that comes for the most part from trauma, doesn't it? It's in our hypervigilance that we if we think, my sister Tracy is very much like that, right? And and it's a safety feature to feel like, that you have everything under control. But that's also a very big responsibility, right? Very who yeah, you can have the control. If that's what you want, you have you have that. I've got other things to do. Okay, you guys. You have a great night and we'll see you tomorrow.